So Nintendo is now suing a Reddit mod for millions of dollars. Yep, apparently that is the real threat to their $100 billion empire, a Reddit moderator. You thought they were gonna stop at Power World? Oh, no. Listen, James from Seattle is also an S tier raid boss for Nintendo. But here's the crazy part. As awful as Nintendo has been lately, I kind of agree with them here. I know. Listen, I'll explain in just a minute, but this new Nintendo lawsuit is only one of 3 different stories that we have to cover today, because Nintendo is also in the headlines for other things such as AI use, which we'll dive deep into because it's a little bit nuanced. But first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Theo wanted to come say hi, right, buddy? You said everyone needs to like and subscribe, right? So this article was posted on nintendoeverything.com. Nintendo seeking $4.5 million in damages from Switch piracy Reddit mod. There it is, folks, the infamous P word. All right, a new Nintendo lawsuit is making the rounds, in which the company is looking for $4.5 million in damages from Switch piracy Reddit moderator Arcbox. This person operated multiple piracy websites. Nintendo says that the defendant has, quote, engaged in the infringing and unlawful reproduction and distribution of hundreds or thousands of copyrighted Nintendo Switch games, and that through the various pirate shops he has distributed or facilitated the distribution of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of unauthorized copies of such Nintendo Switch games, end quote. So apparently this Reddit mod was actually selling pirated copies of Nintendo Switch games, and that is like easily one of the dumbest things you could do, brother. One of the absolute stupidest things that you could do. Everyone knows the legal department at Nintendo is going to pop off on you. Let's go ahead and keep reading here. It says, it seems this initially began after Nintendo asked the activities to stop. That didn't happen, which brought on the lawsuit. This person has also now responded to the lawsuit as things stand currently. Now, this might sound familiar to you because we also covered a similar story a few weeks back where an individual who was selling the MiG Switch cartridges actually also got a cease and desist from Nintendo. They ignored that cease and desist, and what do you know? Surprise, surprise, their legal team comes knocking. It's like, what do these people on Reddit think is going to happen, right? Like if Nintendo reaches out to you and says, hey, we see what you're doing, stop it, and you don't do it, you're going to get sued into oblivion. There's absolutely no chance, brother. You're a level 1 gangster going up against a level 99 mob boss, okay? You stand absolutely no chance. Nintendo's legal team is going to Exodia obliterate you. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. It's over. Let's take a look at the actual court document here. It says United States District Court for the Western District of Washington at Seattle, Nintendo of America versus James C. Williams is apparently Arcbox's actual name. This is all public information, so I'm not doxing anybody here, okay? I'm gonna link this entire document down in the description below. All the sources for all my videos are always down there, if I remember. So let's take a look here. It says this action concerns an individual defendant, James, aka Arcbox, who has facilitated a network of unauthorized online shops nicknamed free shops that have offered to the public extensive libraries of pirated Nintendo Switch games for download. Williams not only copied and distributed Nintendo game files without authorization, he actively promoted their distribution and copying to thousands of others across a variety of websites and online communities, and knowingly trafficked in unlawful software products aimed at circumventing Nintendo's technological measures protecting against unauthorized access to and use of Nintendo Switch games and the Nintendo Switch console itself, the quote circumvention software. These activities have substantially damaged Nintendo of America's overall business and intellectual property rights, as well as the business and intellectual property rights of Nintendo of America's development and publishing partners, and further has caused harm to the many artists, game designers, programmers, and those whose livelihood depend on yada yada yada. Williams was served on August 13th 2024, and the court has reviewed materials documenting the propriety of this service and the steps taken by Nintendo to ensure Williams was the proper defendant. Default was thereafter entered by the clerk on November 8th 2024, Williams has chosen not to respond to the complaint, though he retained counsel to make a purported limited appearance for the purpose of intervening in a third-party subpoena served in anticipation of the present motion. At least it looks like this guy has some sort of legal team, whereas the last time we covered something like this, the guy just decided to fight the case all on his own, which is like GG, you're screwed, right? In other words, the records reflects that Williams is fully aware of this action, but has allowed default to be entered and has taken no action to cure or contest it. As set forth below, default judgment is warranted and the monetary and non-monetary relief sought herein is wholly justified. It goes on to say from 2019 through 2024, defendant also posted on a Reddit group called Switch Pirates, eventually becoming a leading if not primary moderator of that community, which he helped grow to nearly 190,000 members. Williams has posted thousands of messages to the Switch Pirates Reddit community where a badge accompanying his username stated moderator, including messages directing users to the pirate shops and soliciting donations of Nintendo eShop gift cards for the purchase of games to be copied and distributed on the pirate shops. He also has offered technical advice and encouragement about how to use the pirate shops, how to download and install circumvention software, and how to play pirated copies of Nintendo Switch games. Apparently the Jack in the Shop, so the JITS shop that was being promoted by this Discord moderator, had a Discord server with more than 58,000 members. There's also Turtle in the shop. We all know what the acronym for that one is. The Switch Pirates wiki page described Turtle in the shop as being run by one of the JITS admins and as a backup shop available for people when JITS is down. Williams claimed the pro version of this pirate shop was created to provide access to certain users as incentives to donate eShop gift cards to the dumping teams, and that thousands of users had become members. This Discord server had more than 61,000 members. Same thing for Neko or Neko Drive and Libra shop as well. All of these have tens of thousands of members or tens of thousands of digital copies of games. On March 26th of 2024, Nintendo of America sent defendant a letter demanding he immediately shut down his pirate shops and cease and desist from any further involvement with any others. Nintendo of America advised defendant that if he was unwilling to cooperate, Nintendo of America would have no choice but to commence litigation. In response to the March 2024 cease and desist letter, defendant acknowledged his conduct violated Nintendo of America's rights and stated that he would work with Nintendo of America to satisfy his demands. He did not, however, agree to cease his conduct and in fact denied his involvement with the pirate shops in several respects. When Nintendo of America requested that defendant confirm in writing that he would comply with Nintendo of America's demands, he became combative and uncooperative. Following the March cease and desist letter, some of the pirate shops or their content became inaccessible, with the notable exception of Libra Shop, which continued to operate throughout the filing of the complaint. Defendant also deleted or hid evidence relevant to Nintendo of America's claims, including his GitHub account and social media posts and communications. On May 17th 2024, Nintendo gave defendant a final opportunity to comply with its demands prior to litigation. Defendant stated that an attorney would be reaching out to Nintendo, but Nintendo never received any such outreach and its efforts to contact defendant's purported counsel were ignored. On January 17th 2025, Nintendo's counsel was contacted via email by a Seattle-based attorney, William Burnside, who claimed to represent Williams. Mr. Burnside subsequently filed a notice of limited appearance with this court for the limited purpose of responding to Nintendo's third-party subpoena to Google LLC. I believe that this Reddit mod also had a Google Drive filled with documents and I guess illegal content as well. They go on to say, after multiple interactions with Mr. Burnside concerning the subpoena to Google, Nintendo and its counsel had no further contact with Mr. Burnside or Williams. A court's decision to grant default judgment is guided by the procedural requirements set forth, and then they go on to cite some federal case here, local rule 55. I'm not a lawyer. Nothing in this video is legal advice, by the way. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm a massive goofball on YouTube. I'm not an authority figure on any of this, okay? So I don't know what any of this actually means. Anyway, the conclusion of this lawsuit is that Nintendo respectfully requests that the court enter a default judgment in favor of Nintendo of America against Williams for $4.5 million and an injunction in the reform of the proposed injunctions. So not only do they want the money, but they want him to stop doing everything that he's been doing and never do it ever again. And here's the part of the video that I think maybe some people aren't going to like to hear, right? Because look, I know it's really popular to hate on Nintendo right now. I get it, right? I get it. I see you guys in the comments. I see you guys watching the videos. I understand, right? And there's a lot of, to be clear, there's a lot to hate Nintendo for right now. This though, in my opinion, really isn't one of those things that we should be hating Nintendo for, because let's be real, it's copyright infringement. Like, what do you expect, right? Even if let's play devil's advocate here, okay? This is where people are going to say, look, okay, Nintendo has been a scummy company, they've been raising prices, this, that, and the other thing, therefore piracy is morally correct. That's what a lot of people think, that's how they feel, okay? And I understand where you're coming from, and I can understand why you feel that way, and to some certain extent I can understand why you would arrive at that logical conclusion. But just because you feel that way doesn't mean that's how the world should work. Do you understand? Like, we can't just allow piracy because we don't like a company, because if we allow it for Nintendo, then it's only a matter of time before it happens to a company that you do actually like, whether it's Sony, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Team Cherry or Larian Studios or Rockstar or From Software or Bethesda or whatever company it is that you personally really like. If we allow this type of behavior against Nintendo games just because we don't like them, well, then it's justified for every other company, right? We have to have some sort of legal framework against these things, and let's be honest, this dude's breaking the law. I mean, it is what it is. It's not legal to sell pirated content. That's literally what he was doing. He had websites or Google Drives filled with these ROMs. He was allegedly helping people circumvent the security measures of the Switch, right? And so while you can sit there and say that all of this is morally justified, that's fine, that's your opinion, but realistically in the real world, we can't allow this type of piracy to continue, because it just gets worse and worse and worse when it becomes unchecked, and it starts to affect not only the big studios but then the smaller studios as well. And let's be real, if you like gaming, you want some of these developers to make some money, right? I mean, that's the only way that these games actually can be made. Somebody somewhere has to get paid, whether it's the artists, the developers, the distributors, the publishers, whatever the case might be. Someone's got to pay for something at some point, otherwise your favorite games do not exist, okay? So in this instance, where not only does it seem obvious that this dude was allegedly breaking the law willingly, but he also got contacted by Nintendo and didn't stop everything immediately, right? Like, it just feels like idiot behavior, right? Like, this just feels like dumb behavior, like you're just being stupid. Like, I don't understand what is going on here, right? Like, Nintendo's legal department is infamous for taking things like this down, right? So when you get reached out to by Nintendo's legal team, like, just comply. They already got you, bro. They already got you. So it's just stupid to be combative and just unresponsive. It's dumb. It's just dumb. So as much as, you know, we like to slam dunk on Nintendo and hate on them lately, I get it, right? I get it. But in this instance, you know, look, I think Nintendo's in the right. I do. I know. Shoot me. I don't know what to tell you. And I know there's that one chronically online Redditor who's going to be in the comments like, actually, pirating copies of games doesn't actually take sales away from the company because these people weren't going to buy the games anyway. And it's like, so let me get this straight, right? You're telling me that someone's going to get a Switch and go through all the work to pirate it and then go through all the work to download the ROMs, and you're going to tell me that they don't like Mario enough to buy it? Yeah, that just does, it's not, I'm sorry, that is illogical. That is an illogical conclusion. I know that some percentage of pirated game copies probably would not have been sales, surely, right? Somebody just wants to download a game to try it, right? I totally get it, right? Some games that are pirated would not have been sales. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. I totally agree with you on that one. But to say that all of the pirated copies of games wouldn't have been actual sales otherwise, I'm sorry, that is not true. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. Just think about it for 2 seconds, okay? If you're willing to go through all of that work to get these games on your console, there's a part of you that likes those games. You want to play them, okay? So at least some of those games are ones that you would have bought otherwise. And so we all know the truth. Despite how you feel, that's actually the truth, okay? Let's take a look at what Reddit has to say about this, because this was posted over on r/gaming. Someone said, is this the guy who was selling Switch ROMs and homebrewed consoles? Nah, it's a different guy, but he was also selling ROMs. First rule is never do that, right? Even the other people on Reddit know that, like, this is just, it's the nail in the coffin, right? Basically putting something behind a paywall is a bad idea when it comes to mods. Any company company would come after you for that 100%, especially Nintendo. People will still stick with the quote, but Nintendo is bad no matter what argument, while this guy is literally selling pirated ROMs of games that are accessible legitimately. Nintendo, like every other company, does profitable business shit, but they're not the antichrist corporate incarnate like Reddit hate mongers want them to be. I'm kind of paraphrasing here because there's some typos here. Nintendo are horrible, mate. That doesn't mean that others can't be bad too, like the above mentioned mod. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Two things can be true at the same time. Nintendo can be doing scummy stuff while it's also true that it's illegal to sell pirated copies of games, right? And also it does harm the industry to some extent, maybe not as extreme as Nintendo is making it, but it still clearly does harm to Nintendo and their other third-party game companies that sell their games on the Switch system, right? This person explains what exactly is going on here, and then someone responds saying, oh, that guy? Yeah, it didn't really surprise me they got busted, considering they ran the biggest Switch piracy method. The way it worked is you could download on the free version with everyone else, and it was slow, crashed often, and sucked, or you could pay $5 to $25 for a month/year of the deluxe version with unlimited bandwidth. They had a waiting list, so many people were sending them donations. Then they kept doing this thing where the free version would be down for months, so the only option was to donate. Then we would post on Discord saying we need more donations to get the free servers back online, and then they would. Again, there was a gigantic waiting list. I'm sure they made a lot of money. Too bad it's going to go to lawyers/Nintendo. Anyway, GG to James. He just got one shot by Nintendo's legal department. Let's move on to the next story here. This person tweeted, Nintendo is apparently lobbying the Japanese government to push back against generative AI. Satoshi Asano, a member of Japan's House of Representatives, says Nintendo is choosing to avoid the use of generative AI in order to safeguard its IP. Now, this was a tweet that was put out, but was quickly actually refuted by Nintendo themselves. As you can see here, there's a community note with a link to a response from Nintendo themselves. Now, his original tweet was already taken down because of Nintendo's response, but basically this is what it said. You could go ahead and Google translate it. He says, while acknowledging the convenience of generative AI, I was reminded once again of the importance of protecting the rights of creators. I take seriously the fact that my post sparked controversy. After some research, I found that in a past dispute, the Yomiuri Shimbun sued Perplexity AI on 2025, seeking approximately 2.17 billion yen in damages. I don't actually know what that is. You can let me know in the comment section below. The unauthorized use of articles was an issue. Additionally, overseas, the New York Times is suing OpenAI and Getty Images, is suing Stability AI for copyright infringement. Then it goes on to say companies like D and A are also increasingly building AI using their own data. Nintendo, for example, avoids using generative AI to protect its IP and is also actively pursuing government initiatives. So that was the issue that Nintendo had with this post, and this is the official response from Nintendo. There are no facts indicating that our company is making any approaches to the Japanese government regarding generative AI. Regardless of whether generative AI is used, our company's policy is to take appropriate action against anything we determine to be infringing on our intellectual property. Isn't that right, James? Okay. The politician responds saying, in my post from the previous day, there was a section mentioning lobbying by private companies regarding IP protection, and afterward accurate information was provided by the relevant company. In conclusion, there was no fact of lobbying, and it was found that my post contained misinformation, so I would like to correct it. In particular, I apologize to those involved. If I corrected the relevant parts of my post from the previous day and rephrase it accurately based on the facts, it becomes, quote, Nintendo is cautious about the use of generative AI in game development from the perspective of intellectual property protection. It does not engage in lobbying activities towards the government regarding IP infringement. It takes appropriate measures regardless of the presence or absence of AI. They go on to say, regarding the content I posted the other day, he says, I deeply regret my own failure to verify the facts adequately. I would like to apologize once again to all parties and will strive to prevent any reoccurrence. He says that the post actually appeared in X trends, so to prevent the further spread of information that differs from the facts, he actually went ahead and deleted it. Okay, now the reason that I bring this up is because some people saw this as a rare Nintendo W, right? People actually, if there's one thing people hate just as much as Nintendo lately, it is AI, generative AI, the use of AI in artwork or anything like that. I personally don't subscribe to that belief. I think that there are good ways to use AI, there are bad ways to use AI, but there is one truth above it all, and that is the fact that AI is here, right? So we do have to find a way perhaps to use AI more legally and to protect more people, but AI going away is not going to happen. Pandora's box has been opened. If the United States bans use of generative AI, AI, then we will just see it used more and more in other countries like China, India, Japan. These other countries will continue to use AI and continue to make better and better content for the consumer. So if you say, okay, we don't want generative AI in our games, it's like, okay, well, where do you draw the line there? Because there are great uses for AI in games that not only make the production of games cheaper, but they make the games actually better. And it also helps smaller studios accomplish bigger tasks because they don't need as big of a team, or they could do things for a bit cheaper, right? So to pretend like there's only downsides to AI is just naive. I mean, you just don't know enough about it if that's your actual opinion on this. It's honestly just way more nuanced than that. And again, we can't ban AI globally. So if we don't use it in one country, but every other country continues to use it, it's like, okay, well, you've actually just accomplished nothing, right? You've accomplished nothing. So all that to say, people liked the fact that Nintendo might be pushing back against AI, but it turns out that that was actually not true at all. So the one rare Nintendo W that they would have gotten lately turned out to not be true whatsoever. But we do have a statement from Doug Bowser, who spoke about the company's thoughts on AI in an interview published earlier this year in 2025. Back then he said, if we think about just technology in general to start with, as we look at technology, we always want to make sure the technology we may be leveraging, whether it is to develop our games or in our devices, it's going to create a better gameplay experience, Bowser said in conversation with CNBC. It starts there. That's a very important part of our decision-making process and how to use AI. So the question is never, should we use AI? The answer is yes. Gaming companies will use AI. The question is, how should they use it? And is there a way that they can use it that can also simultaneously compensate those that are negatively impacted by the use of AI? And for that, we will wait and see. The final story we have to talk about today actually comes from Blizzard's response to Nintendo's Palworld lawsuit. World of Warcraft is getting rid of the pet battling system in Midnight. Midnight is the upcoming expansion release, with new wild pets now captured with a single click instead after Nintendo's patent. All existing creatures, challenges, and battle pet content will remain available. However, no new pet battles will be added, and future pets will lack stats or abilities for participation. So pet battling has been in World of Warcraft for probably a decade. I think it came out in Mists of Pandaria, which came out in 2012. So for 13 years now, we have had pet battling in World of Warcraft, and apparently that's going to stay the same, but there just won't be any more new pets for the pet battling system. And this is the top comment here. There it is. This is exactly the shit we knew was gonna start. Terrible practices by Nintendo, cutting the legs out from other titles for basic concepts they 1000% did not create. This person says they shouldn't bow to Nintendo. They had like 15 years to sue Blizzard over this shit. They didn't, and now they shouldn't be able to. I completely agree. Now look, is pet battling a popular part of World of Warcraft? I think probably not as much anymore. I know there are still some people who do really like that type of content in World of Warcraft. I personally, as I'm not a huge WoW player, but I haven't found it to be a super compelling or popular aspect of the game. That being said though, I don't think that Blizzard should be bending the knee to Nintendo. What I personally think happened here is that Blizzard is kind of scapegoating Nintendo as a way to avoid having to put effort into that system moving forward. Does that make sense? I think what they want to do is cut back the development on that system. That way they don't have to pay people to do it, and they can say, oh well, it's out of our control, it's all Nintendo, they have this new patent now and we don't want to get sued, right? So it's kind of like a win-win for them. They can scapegoat Nintendo, everyone will hate Nintendo for it, and then they can save money by not having to focus their development efforts on the pet battle system moving forward, right? That's really what I think happened here. But at the end of the day, it sucks, right? It sucks that Nintendo has this patent, and I do really hope that some company does take them to court for this, because it is absolutely ridiculous. But anyway guys, that's gonna do it for today. If you made it to the end, consider dropping a thumbs up on the video, subscribing if you're new here, and hyping the video if you liked it. Comment down below your thoughts, and with that being said guys, thank you so much for watching.